Hans, you pig! Again, you arrived late for dinner. I've cooked, I've cleaned, I've made myself look nice, and you didn't show up.
I have to earn the money so that you can cook at all.
But you said it would be our time. It would be our time.
You need to put yourself in my shoes. In my shoes. Take my perspective.
Oh, well, that's a good idea. I've got a Bavarian ritual for exactly this purpose. I've got my trusted holy banana peel. Do you have a candle by any chance?
Of course. One moment, please.
Perfect. Holy Berius, transfer. Looks better already.
Oh, what have you done?
And now, evil gets an upgrade. This is the Sci-Fi News Video Review with your hosts, Daniel and Jens.
Well, guys, this gets more and more stupid each and every week, I think. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of The German Perspective. Leave a comment, like and subscribe. Let us know what you think about this very unique format. My trusted friend Hans over there and myself, Franz, are of course going to talk about the 5th episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds this week, Spock, Amok. I think Hans, take it from the top.
Thank you, Franz, mein Freund. Yeah. In Spock Amok, the Enterprise returns to Starbase 1 after the dramatic battle against the Gorn in the last week to have damage to the ship repaired, while Captain Pike, together with Admiral April and Spock, has to master a diplomatic challenge. The rest of the crew takes time for other things. The episode makes it clear right from the start that despite the episodic storytelling, there's no way to hit the reset button after every episode, as was the usual case with The Next Generation or Voyager, for example. Already in the first season, the show has a very good balance between continuity in the consequences and independence in the stories. An attribute that, for example, Deep Space Nine and Babylon 5 have mastered to perfection. In Spock Amok, we are also dealing with a classic episode structure. There are 3 plot lines with different characters, all of which pay off on the same main issue. The topic of the week, besides being aware of your own identity, is especially the ability to take the perspective of another person. Be it in a relationship, in a negotiation, or in a friendship. The writers try to approach the topic a bit through humor and irony by not taking Star Trek itself too seriously. This works well for me for Una and La'an's Enterprise Bingo Tour. Both have obviously been nicknamed where fun goes to die.
In Germany! Fun goes to die in Germany! Sorry.
When they try to convince themselves that they are not only dutiful and hardworking, they tend to confirm the image that the rest of the crew has of them. The fact that management officers can not longer be part of the team in classic style is a good metaphor, and can also be observed again and again in the business world of today. Often employees who become superiors do not manage to build up a healthy distance to their former colleagues and therefore fail in leadership positions. Spock and T'Pring have trouble finding time for each other. A bit cliched, T'Pring waits to eat while her fiancé is busy working. Spock, on the other hand, feels that he is not Vulcan enough for his partner and is plagued with doubts about his own identity. The character Spock is perfectly suited for narratives like this. Even in TOS, we often saw the half Vulcan being reproached for his origins. It seems almost logical to take up this topic in a modern interpretation of the TOS era. That the two are perhaps irritated by different expectations and misinterpretations of statements and actions of the other, and therefore question the partnership is understandable for me. both simply lack the perspective of the other due to the limited time. By the way, the lack of ability to put yourself in the shoes of another person and to take on the perspective of the other person is another major deficit among many executives. Whether it would have really needed this face-off effect, this change of perspective with a sledgehammer, I don't know. I found the humorous scenes here much less funny. I already noted in the last episode that I'm not a big fan of constant mind melds, and right in the next episode we get another mystical ritual demonstrated. That the reversibility then requires a medical solution is quite nonsense on the top. While the episode confirms the general narrative of Vulcans, I've always been bothered by the mismatch of the strongly ambivalent Vulcan behaviors. On the one hand, they are great mentors of the Federation, the people that accompanied humanity into a new age. On the other hand, most of the Vulcans in Star Trek, when they don't play a returning role, are quite racists who consider all non-Vulcan life being inferior. A fact that has accompanied Star Trek from the beginning. And for me, this mismatch in behavior has always made the Vulcan culture a way of life a bit unbelievable to me. I found the Tinder chatter of Nurse Chapel and Erica extremely unpleasant and disturbing. The screen time would have been better invested in the negotiation around Captain Pike and the Rogovians. This had interesting approaches, but the solution, which is based on absolute empathy and also here on the change of perspective, seems very hectically staged. The viewer is simply left without important insights that Pike might make in the meantime to find the solution. Visually, I liked the episode again very much. The Enterprise in the background of the negotiation room, the solar sail ship that strongly reminds the one that Captain Sisko built according to the Bajoran model. All that looked very good again, even if it does not come close to the genre reference. The classic soundtrack, especially at the beginning of the episode, was again very fitting and atmospheric. The fifth episode as a whole doesn't reach the level of the previous weeks for me because the balance between humor and serious concern doesn't always work, and because things are often just presented without giving the viewer enough context. I rate Spock Amok 2.5 out of 5 points. Back to my beer drinking friend, Franz.
Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Hans. Thank you very much. And I have to say, the fifth episode, Spock Amok, it's a very special episode. On the one hand, because it takes up many interesting character facets. On the other hand, because it tries to do this in a rather clumsy and superficial and humorous way. To let Spock, who has chosen Starfleet, now have doubts about whether he is man or Vulcan enough for his future wife, represents a dilemma that is not only exciting from a science fiction perspective, but should also have recognition value for most of the viewers. You can sympathize with him, but also understand the other side. Nurse Chapel's whoring, on the other hand, sorry, this is now called self-determined way of life, I think, however, appeals to me much less. She just wants to play, she doesn't do anything. My ass. Such behavior towards someone who's obviously serious about the relationship is shameful. Disguised from the feminine perspective, it is supposed to be entertaining, it is supposed to be funny, and I don't think so. And the outcry would be really great on Twitter if it would be the other way around. This really sucks. The face-off was equally absurd. Walk in my shoes for a while, for a day, is the saying, and you will understand me. And the emphasis there is more on for a while and not between lunch and midday, of course. Also, the humorous scene with Captain Pike coming to Pring and Spock's quarters was highly illogical. I would have expected the situation to be dealt with openly instead of dragging it out unnecessarily for the sake of humor. Also, the rest of the plot in this aspect is abundantly stupid and absurd, so everyone can just do each other's jobs here, and for something like that, the minimum wage was raised to $7.25. I don't get it. And why does it need to be a logical specialist when you can just arrest illogical Vulcans with your fists? I hear Bud Spencer is looking for a new job here. Equally disturbing, the way back into one's own body. One certainly feels reminded of the magical Ocarina of Time from the first season of Star Trek Picard, which could heal the entire ship by sheer power of the mind. And here we have the sea urchin paste and a few crystals from Karen's Cargy Bike pop-up store. And I'm asking myself, does every Starfleet ship always have a portion of sea urchin paste around on board in case two Vulcans get stuck in each other's mind? And if so, are they already pre-pasteurized, or were they still swimming in Captain Pike's aquarium beforehand and someone has to grab them and put it in the mixer and kill them? And anyway, well, why not the elder one from Harry Potter? That one almost had more extensive backstory and explanation compared to the sea urchin stuff. But all of that was kind of fun, was kind of entertaining. Just like other episodes in other Star Trek series, which showed an equally loose approach. The only difference here, you had 7 seasons with 20 to 26 episodes each, and those funny episodes outside the usual narrative and very, very much later in the progression of the show. I think you do not really have that luxury of such an experiment in Strange New Worlds with 10 episodes. Unless, of course, the whole thing is part of the usual series context. Then it would be quite a shame, quite a pity, because that's exactly what the Orville is for. And this series definitely does it better and combines it with highly serious topics. The rest of the story about the alien race joining the Federation, on the other hand, was well done, even if it was told just as superficially. Joining the Federation, an interstellar alliance, is made dependent on chance encounters on the Enterprise. What if Spock had just been for little pointy ears on the toilet seat when the delegation beamed aboard? And anyway, doesn't that entry have to be ratified somehow first? Wasn't it said at the beginning of the show that they would only sail with the flag after signing and not already after spending a good evening with Captain Pike? And, well, anyway, the idea of a race whose highest interpersonal good is that the other one is able to put himself in one's place and see the world from the other's eyes, well, it was a very well chosen context for the episode. Spock wants to empathize with his future wife, T'Pring. Chapel wants Spock to have compassion with her. Una and La'an try to understand the lower deck people, and Pike cracks a diplomatic challenge from that perspective as well. And all in all, this was entertaining, but also clearly too superficial and partly very silly and unnecessary. And therefore, we're moving towards a 2.5 out of 5 from the German perspective. And we now have arrived in the absolute mediocrity with this week's episode of Strange New Worlds. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week for the German perspective. We have switched bodies again. I think you're looking very well this week, Hans.
I don't know.
Idiot. Well, you guys out there, let us know what you think about the 5th episode, Spock Ahmed. Let us know what you think about us. Drink some beers, and we're going to see you next week for the German perspective. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.